dear listener, to Poems and Potions. Today we'll be going over our second part of the interview with Louise Robertson. So without further ado, let's get into it. Picking up on that cliffhanger I left us all on last time.
If someone calls themselves a performance poet, it's a little cringy because
Yeah,
let me say this better. When you call yourself that, you're limiting yourself.
yeah,
So if
because
you call yourself something, it's like saying I'm a snob, or it's like
yeah,
saying I have an insecurity complex. It
yeah,
always feels a little wrong, but like, would you go? Would you go to the beach and swim in the ocean saying I'm a professional? Like, it's better not to like putting on that qualifier.
yep. I
To
think
me,
that, no,
seems
thanks.
like you don't know enough.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's a
feel like
very
I'm saying that badly,
interesting.
but yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think I got what you're saying, and it's very interesting. And so since you defined slam, and given that you didn't have a lot of performance prior to writer's block, tell us about your first ever slam experience. And also talk to us about representing writer's block at national and international conference competitions for slam.
Okay, my first slam was a wake up call. 'Cause here I am, degree, fellowships, publications, you know, killing it. Not. And so I think everything's going to go great. That is not what happened.
Yeah,
Here I am, this little white woman who's probably kind of quiet, picking maybe the wrong piece for the wrong room, not being really like, it's hard to be yourself on the mic for
yeah,
me. And that comes through. And if nothing else, performance and poetry slam tests authenticity and the
yeah,
ability to be yourself. And so I would get some good scores, but it was a rocky road. I didn't do well in a lot of slams, and it was the best challenge because it took away that arrogance. Like, I can't just swan in and think I've got this. I have to reschool myself the hardest way possible in engaging the audience, understanding people who really like different things than you like, and figuring all of that out. Yeah,
yeah.
so it took me a
And
long time.
but what is interesting is, and I know you've heard of Carol Dweck and the classic growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and that's something that you exemplify when you talk about failure as an opportunity to grow, wherein you, in your first slam experience, you candidly stated that you recognize that that's not your optimal, but you use that as an opportunity to grow. And then basically you come up with the attitude of I can learn to do anything I want, period. Right? That's the classic Carol Dweck's growth mindset. So thank you for sharing that. That's very
Well,
inspiring.
it I don't know what it was. I had a lot of dark nights of the soul too, because some of the reasons you realize, like, you have assumptions and those assumptions are challenged, and you really have to understand where those assumptions came from
Yep,
and how wrong they might have been and how wrong you are. And
yep,
sometimes there's even shame in feeling like, oh my God, why did I think I deserve this or should be here getting good points when everybody else is working just as hard as I am? Like, that's an arrogance I can't tolerate in myself. So a
yep.
lot of dark nights of the soul that were I hopefully they made me a better person, but I know I can be a little um, insensitive to what other people are feeling sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that because, when and just specifically speaking from a slam experience, you eventually represented writer's block at both
Yes,
national and international competitions, right?
yes, There were
And
two things that had to happen. I had to learn, um, well, many things actually. I had to pick the right poems. I had to, I had to memorize. This isn't for everybody. Scott obviously reads from paper. There's absolutely no need for anybody to ever memorize. But when I started memorizing my pieces, I got better at performance. You
yeah,
don't have the piece of paper shaking in front of your face. You have, and when you memorize, you end up having to practice a lot just to make sure you get it right. So there was a year, I think it was around 2013, maybe a little later. I would every week pick a poem to memorize it, and then do it at the open mic, and that was my training. And that led me to one of, before I won any slams. That led me to my most successful slam, where I was point one away from Ed Mabry, who has gone on to win many, many, many world titles in performance. He's a phenomenal performer. We've had conflicts, he and I, but I got so close to beating that guy. And so that was kind of a highlight slam. I think I tell the anecdote. Somebody came up to me, and this is part of my challenge. Is they came up to me after and they said, they thought it was okay to say this to me. They come up to me and they say, "I took one look at you and thought I couldn't expect anything,
wow.
but and then continued with a thought like, but you proved me wrong." And I'm like, "You thought what?" And so I understand some of it is, I get up there, I don't look like much. So that is something to get over. And it's also, you have to get over yourself feeling bad about yourself. Like, you have to feel like you deserve to be on the stage just like everybody does. That's why one of the reasons I'm an organizer is because I want there to be a stage for everybody. Yeah, and then when I started memorizing, that helped my performance a lot. If I'm just allowed to be in a sound booth and you can't see me and I can read, I think I can do a good job when it's just the voice. But it's so hard to have a body, and you
Yeah.
have to have a body in slam.
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. So amongst the first teams, do you remember any of your first
Oh,
teams from that as well?
I didn't see the very first teams, but they had wake up calls too. Scott is very good at telling these stories. Those first slams, they showed up with matching clothes, and they had never seen slams outside of, I think I'm accurate in saying this, they had not seen slams outside of their own city. So, there's always that poem that's kind of just a hometown favorite, but if it went anywhere else, no one would understand. And so some of that happened. But Scott is friends with Mark Smith, the inventor, Mark Kelly Smith, who invented
Of
Poetry
the Green
Slam.
Mile? Yeah.
Not the Green Mile. It's bar is called. It is Green
Oh,
something.
Get Me High Lounge. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but Green Mill.
Green
It's
Mill, sorry,
Green
not
Mill.
Mill. The Green Mill
But
Jazz
also the Give
Club.
Me High Lunch. Yeah, in Chicago. So they were friends, and that first slam, I believe, the team, they had a hard time, almost like in different ways. They had wake up calls like, "Oh, that's what it's supposed to look like." Like, you've never seen the elephant. Now you see the elephant, you're like, "Oh, that's what it looks like." So that's the when there's an I won't say anything about it. You can cut this out. Another time when I didn't want to be a host city chair because I'd never seen a national event. So I kept saying, I want to see the whole elephant before I do the running of the whole elephant. So they had their own kind of like, oh, this is the style of dress. This is the style of poem. This is what's expected. So that first one was hard for the Columbus team. Luckily, they had some really phenomenal performers on that team. Scott, I mentioned Ed Mabry before. He was on that team. And Ken Braswell. And these are all some of the best writers and performers you'll see in the country. So Mark was friends with Scott, and Scott got to MC, I think, the finals. And he's every bit as good an MC as he is a poet and performer
Yep. Do
and
you
thinker.
have any? Yeah. Do you have any memories of And this name we keep on hearing. For example, Hanif mentioned her in his article when Writer's Block ended, was this poet called Gina Plowrock.
Oh
Uh,
yes,
but
we
do you have
we
any
were
memories of
friends.
her from those
Oh yeah,
initial years?
I was wearing her earrings last night. We're friends. She was Vernell's best friend. Gina and I were a little bit more frenemies. Gina had different but similar standing on the stage in front of people issues. And we both had to find our way through those things. And she did. She was a fantastic writer too. She made jewelry and did other things to earn her living, but she wasn't she didn't have any technology skills. So when she needed to do something, like submit something digitally, I would do it for her, and she would pay me in earrings and
Wow.
jewelry. So I have a lot of her jewelry. So yeah, I have a website I hosted. Like I would host the pictures or whatever that she needed. She didn't know how to do any of that, and she would do these competitions or shows, and they'd say, "Send us your website." So I made a little website for her and stuff like that, so she could
Yeah.
do those things. She was really, really tight with Vernell. But, I've gone drinking with her and Vernell. She was hard to lose because she's 10 years younger than me, and I really thought she'd be here. And it's hard. Like, people speak of her glowingly, and I will too. But she was a complicated person, and I perhaps loved her more for her complications, her when she would be bitter, when she would be upset, when she would be snarky. I mean, and she was so funny. She called making jokes, picking jokes off the joke tree. It was just that she's just that fast. But we were on the same slam team at the 2013 Poetry Slam. So the date I gave for that Ed Mabry Slam must have been 2008 because this is a totally different time. So Gina Vernell, a woman named Alexis, and I were on the team together, and Gina performed a poem, and I'll just give you the title, and it'll give you how great the poem was. It was called Robert Johnson's Guitar to Lance Armstrong's Bicycle.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it did not score well, but it was chillingly good. So
Yeah.
Slam doesn't always reward the best poem, and it might have been the best poem or the best idea in the room, and just really great. So that's
Yep.
Gina. Yes, I
Yeah.
know.
Thanks.
I guess.
Thanks for talking about her.
Okay, I should put on some earrings.
Nice.
I have my jewelry box is right there. Yeah.
So getting us into the modern, 2010s, at
Uh-huh.
some point you accepted the role of social media publicist for Writer's Block. And, talking about that, how do you view Writer's Block in the 2010s
Well,
in general?
I started very simply. It was Brunel and Scott, and in around 2005, 2006, Scott needed help. And so I said, well, I got the kids and the job, but I can do things from home and in the middle of the night. So I started writing their press releases.
Yeah.
And that was the entrance into doing the web marketing, web communications. So I
Yeah.
did the press releases. I took over the emails because it was the email lists in the 2000s. I know we haven't even gotten near the time you're talking about, but that's how it started. And then that sort of grew into, oh, there's this Facebook thing, and oh, there was a MySpace page, there was a Facebook page, we have a Twitter account, but it was mostly the audience was mostly centered around the Facebook was the most successful. So we
Yeah.
did have all the things.
What struck me was, you being the publicist, you managed to get attending Wednesday night Writer's Block as one of the top 10 ideas for a date in Columbus.
Oh
One
yeah.
of the top 10 ideas for a first date in Columbus.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
yeah. That's
genius.
because they need content as much as we need to give them our content. I would send in the listings in, like, when we had all independent papers, like the other paper, like Columbus Alive. I would send them listings and good date night. We would get on the cheap and free calendar a lot. When I ran the marketing, and then when I ran the Women of the World Poetry Slam Wow PS that I mentioned earlier, it was in Columbus twice. I did the marketing the first year, and then I ran it and did the marketing the second year. I I made poor Dave Noble submit every event to every local event listing. And then they're like, oh, what's going on? And they came out and they would cover it.
Yeah,
So that helped too. It's just simply like sending it to the online calendars. I would look for them. I would sign up for them. I would submit every single week. I would hit other paper, the Alive, and then that got combined with Columbus Dispatch, which made it less easy to submit. And then that'd be like random online calendars. Steve Abbott had that. I just get us on all the calendars I could. That was what I did.
yeah, thanks for sharing that. Now, in the modern times, you and Scott decided to start Meat Grinder Poetry Slam, and in
Yeah,
fact, it's still ongoing, right?
yeah.
So tell us when the next one is, and tell us the origin story of the Meat Grinder Slam.
Okay, so Scott worked at the library and I worked at Capital Law School, and they were right next to each other. So that we would have lunch all the time. So we have a great lunch relationship. And a lot of our ideas would get discussed in those lunches. There was 1 year, 2 years, in fact, when the National Poetry Slam mentioned previously was on the West Coast. And Ohio, even though Ohio spawns dozens of poetry slam teams, well, 3 or 4 poetry slam teams, dozens of poets who would be good enough to go there, there'd be like one Ohio team. And I was feeling bad about that. Like, Ohio is great for poetry. We have so many great poets. And so I thought, I was at lunch, I'm saying, we should do a one-day slam here. And so that lunch turned into the time the two of us took together to create the vision for Meat Grinder. Like, it has to be done in one day. One of the problems with the National Poetry Slam is the whole freaking week. So if you want to be there, you're there. You get to perform 2 poems, and you've taken off for a week of vacation, and your kid is back home, and your partner's like going, "Where are you?" You know. So it has to be one day. Want to make it kind of hard. Cut the time a little. Usually there's a 10-second grace. There's usually a 3-minute in a typical poetry slam. A typical time is 3 minutes plus 10 seconds of grace. No grace time. Take that off. Make it harder. Oh, you can sing. You always can sing, but like, you can wear a costume. You can use props. We're not going to have those kinds of restrictions because we're trying to push it. So some of the values that both of us shared about creating a certain kind of slam, anti-slam, we have to take away some of the seriousness. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's going to go crying. We don't want any tears at this event, no matter what your score is, no tears. And that has been, the vision has created a very beloved event. People really love it because even if you don't get on final stage, if you spent the day in an alien costume, you've lost nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the audience, this Meat Grinder Slam is hosted in Columbus, Ohio, on a weekend, probably. And Louis, could you tell us when the next one is? Because we are all
Yeah,
excited to potentially.
we're bringing it. It got the pandemic put the pause on this. We're bringing it back in July 2024.
Yeah. So everybody in July 2024, keep an
Keep
eye
your
out
eyes peeled for the date.
for the date. The other thing that you do and you've continued to do over the years is your Meta Factory workshop. As you know, it's almost an extension to the writer's blog, but you have still continued it.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
One of the nice things about having lunch with Scott is your ideas become real. So Meat Grinder happened, Shed-In happened, Meta Factory happened. I wanted to do a generative writing workshop. And
Yeah.
so he is a great person to bounce off ideas because he'll ask you questions like, well, who is it for? What are the successes? What are you going to call it? The original name was actually called Break Fast Meta Factory, but that was
Okay.
too much. And so we took off the breakfast word, the break fast part. And yeah. So that was thought of and proposed in the Mohawk restaurant at the bar over lunch. And the biggest part was, what is the definition of success? I'm like, if there's one or two other people there, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been doing so, it's been going on for a very long time now, maybe 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah. It used to be in the libraries, and the libraries don't let you schedule in advance too far. So it moved around a lot, and that was very confusing.
So for our audience, how would you describe a Meta Factory workshop? When does it happen? Where can you find information on the event and what to expect when you go to your Meta Factory workshop?
It's the schedule is now, because the schedule has changed here and there. It used to be every week. It's third Saturdays, and it's held at Streetlight Guild, Scott Woods' arts organization, which is wonderful because it stays put. It's not moving around to different branches all the time. So it's 3 p.m. third Saturdays, Streetlight Guild, 1367 East Main. It looks like prompts, writing prompts. I will select a book as inspiration and create 10 or 12 writing prompts and make a little slideshow. And I give you a writing prompt, show you the prompts, set a timer. You get about 6 or 7 minutes to respond to the prompt. And then boom, we move on to the next writing prompt. It's really no fun at all. I mean, I'm joking when I say it's no fun at all, but the whole point is to get you to be writing and to have an immediate response. I think my idea is that veteran poets like it because it's nice to have somebody else to tell you what to write about. So yeah.
Yeah, and even for a poet starting out, you get that sometimes you can have a block about, you know, putting down things, and this format really pushes that creative process on the way. So if you have never been to a Meta Factory workshop, highly recommend it. With that being said, Louis, do you want to talk about your resources, specifically your Patreon website, and how the Columbus poetry community can access your work? And I think in the podcast description we'll put a link to that as well.
Okay. Well, just to one step back, the best place to find information on the Meta Factory Writing Prompt Workshop is on Facebook. And so Meta Factory, one word, just look in the search. The group should come up. I post the schedule information. I'll often post ahead of time, like what book I've selected as inspiration.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty easy to find. I have a website. It's called rewritingovid.net. And that is my website. I just recently redid it. You can find a quick CV there. And I've had like over 100 poems published in the world, so I have that list there. Some links, I've been very slow to add links, and sometimes links go dead, you know. So if you go to rewritingovid.net, that's my website. I think if you Google me, you can get to it.
Yeah, and then we'll put a link to this when we process the podcast episode. So with that, we have
Okay.
two more things for you. One is, do you have advice for poets and artists? And could you, also talk about reflections on Columbus being called a poetry town? We hear that everywhere we go. number one. And secondly, I know you've brought a poem to share with us. So if you could share your poem and talk about it as well.
Okay. Advice. This is going to sound glib, but I don't mean it that way. You only have to do two things: start anywhere and keep going. That's it.
I
You can
like
have all
that.
the education in the world, and it won't work if you can't keep going.
Yeah,
You can have
so
all the endurance, but if you don't get started, it won't mean anything. You could have all the talent, and if you don't do it, it won't mean anything. I personally would add to it also try to get it published or recorded, because someday you will be somebody's Gina Blaverick, and gosh, wouldn't they like to have had that poem written down? But yes, the secondary advice is it's great when you get it out there. Somebody loves you. They will want your poems.
yeah,
I think,
that's good, Ran.
Louise, what you're saying is also like, that was part of why Mandar and I, had started this, was because, we want to appreciate people while they're still with us. And so
Yeah.
that's a very good point I think you make. I mean, I started this a year ago and my body does not like living. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important. And that's something that does need to be said. It's reality. It's
Gina
unfortunate.
was 38.
And
That's when
it's, yeah, I think that's very important.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then do you have any reflections on Columbus being called a poetry
Oh yeah.
town?
I do have an idea for this. I know. I think I know why. Because it's not New York.
Yeah,
It is not cool to be from Columbus, Ohio. You cannot get any kind of frisson from walking around one of the many streets called Haddingtonshire in Dublin, Ohio, which is a suburb for those who don't know. Like there's not it's not just the lack of cool. And I'm sorry, I know Hanif Abdurraqib, one of our greatest sons, thinks this is one of the best places. You have to do the work. There is
yep.
no pillow of a vibe that will keep you going and feeling different. You have what you are and nothing else. And that, in fact, is the not locked, the dorm room. I don't know why I'm always thinking it has to be locked. I Some people need to be locked in a dorm room with a notebook and an anthology, as I was. I know that sounds really arrogant, but like, don't listen to that person and that person and that person. The MFA, there's an MFA voice. Do you want to have it? Then go get an MFA before you have already really started writing your own work. So the locked dorm room. So Columbus is the metaphorical locked dorm room. There's nothing really cool about it. You're left to your own devices. It has everything you need, like a dorm room might. The internet is here. There are readings here, but you still have to do it yourself. That's what I think. And all of Ohio is a little bit like that. It's just not cool enough.
Well,
Well,
thanks
that's
for
something,
sharing. Good, Ran.
that's something that, one, as far as the meta factory, and I think I may have told you this too, but I'm bad at self motivation, very bad at it. So having Cauldron, having Meta Factory, having, Sue's workshops, places where I can go that will, just by being in that place, not what is effectively a Toys R Us with books, really helps
Yeah,
from
one
my
of
perspective.
my guiding principles for Meta Factory actually is it's old. I have my degrees are old at this point, but I feel like would like to make sure that education gets out to whoever wants to have it for free. I mean, I bring in, 1 week it's Louise Bogan, and who's the famous Louise of the previous century, and the next week I'll bring in the person who just won the, who's the poet laureate of Detroit or whoever. Karen G is the next poet. So that's one of the side values of Meta Factory and also my driving spirit as an artist is not just to be an artist, which comes first, but comes second is making sure there's a stage there and making sure that if I can share whatever education for whatever it's worth, I will, because it's wrong to hoard that stuff, to keep it from, because geniuses are everywhere.
Thank you for joining us on Poems and Potions. Please be here in 2 weeks when we conclude our interview with Louise Robertson. Also, please do make sure you get to one of the Meta Factory workshops if you have the chance. They are, as Mandar said, transformative. Also, I want to reiterate that Meat Grinder will be August 10th, not in July, as we talked about in the interview. Poems and Potions is produced by R. Taryn Lear, Mandar Kath, and Marquita Byers. Sound support provided by A.D. Dietrich. Music provided by Charity Dietrich. If you would like to help support the show, you can find us at Patreon/RTaryn, Patreon/RTERRON. And also, give Louise some Patreon a little bit of love too. The prompts that she gives every month are absolutely worth it. And with that, have a great day, be well, and go read some poetry. Or maybe, if it's your lunch break, write something.